Welcome, everyone. I think we can kick off this panel event. So I'm very, very happy to welcome everybody with us today. We have participants from around the globe, and I thank you all for being here with us today. My name is Fredrik. I am the Assistant Dean of Academic Design and Innovation here at UC Berkeley Global, and I have the great pleasure to moderate this first panel of our new international event series that we have between the French National Conservatoire of Arts and Crafts, the CNAM, and the University of California, Berkeley Global. This initiative is born out of a university partnership that allows learners to study the MBA between Paris and Berkeley. And in these very unusual, I would say, historic times that we live in today, our wish is to provide a forum to professionals and academics around the globe to connect and exchange their respective best practices, their research, their visions for what is to come, and how to be successful in this new normal. Today, we have basically stopped traveling. We have come to almost a standstill around the world, being sheltering in place in many, many regions in the world. Doing so, however, between us marketing professionals, we realized how much closer we have become through technology, and we're actually pretty fascinated and passionate about the wonderful opportunities that we now have to bring together outstanding thought leaders and decision takers from around the world. Today, we have the opportunity to gain insights on how leading marketers are handling this crisis, how they are planning for this new tomorrow, and to learn from them their different perspectives. We have here different perspectives from Europe and from the United States. We have different perspectives from B2B to B2C, between academia and industry, and from normal marketing strategy to research consumer behavior. So thank you very, very much to our amazing panelists for having taken the time in these very busy days to be with us. Thank you, Maria Ginotti, Director of Demand Generation at Vibes and President of the American Marketing Association, San Francisco. Thank you very much, Nawal Slimani, Head of Strategy and Marketing at Siemens for Western Europe and France. Thank you very much, Jean-Michel Rajkovic, Professor and Chair of Marketing at the CNAM and Co-President of the French Marketing Association. And thank you very much, Professor Ming Xu, who is the chair of the William Halford Junior Family Chair in Marketing at the Haas School of Business here in Berkeley. I think one of the opportunities that we have here when we come together is to discuss a few hot topics that I believe most marketers around the globe are currently concerned with. And I will let you introduce yourselves to the audience. And to the audience, please feel free, as our moderator just said, to share your questions at any time in the Q&A box. We have this amazing team of organizers and moderators that will structure the questions so that the panel can address them at the end of the discussion. Quick shout out and thank you to our team, Nadej, Eli, and Aria, for putting everything here in place. Sounds good. So if everybody is ready and on board, thank you again very much for being here. And how about we start off with you, Jean-Michel?
Thank you, Fredrik. Very pleased to be here today. I'm very pleased that we have the opportunity to share this cross-vision we were talking about when preparing this session, having a joint action of CNAM and Berkeley Extension. As you mentioned, the context we are facing is definitely amazingly new for all of us. The sanitary situation is definitely very dramatic in many parts of the world. And in this environment, the company are facing huge challenge in terms of will we survive tomorrow? What is the impact short-term on our turnover, but what is the impact on long-term on our business? And the states are moving very fast to support kind of a business relaunch in order to make sure that companies around the globe will be back and that we can operate all the industries and so on. But we share the understanding that the world won't be the same. and that we need up to a certain extent new horizons. We need short-term horizons, but also we need long-term horizons. And we were definitely focusing that we have to save the world. Climate change is a reality, and the impact on the environment is already there on many types of business. But this is an opportunity because we stop, more or less we freeze around the world, and we can step back and definitely ask ourselves, do we keep on the same way or do we change it? And do we keep on with globalization? Do we relocate part of our business and so on? Do we change our consumer patterns? Do we change our work organization? And do we communicate a bit differently? Because the relationship we do have right now is impacting our relation to time, to space, and so on. And very briefly, we were working on the French Marketing Association's ADETEM on a marketing manifesto. And we had the first one in 2013, and we had a new one a few months ago, in March, actually. And we were having kind of a flavor of what we are talking about right now. Because when working on this manifesto, and the scientific committee of ADETEM was working and involving all the members of our marketing community, but we were already questioning the impact of digital business, digital transformation on business models, consumer habits, on platforms, impact on business, and so on. But now, and the key topics were definitely, how do we reinvent a new vision? And a new vision of with maybe more values, more meanings in our business relation with the consumers, with the partners, and so on. And we were already talking about a new deal of work. How do we work in this new environment? How do we engage our employees and so on? And the impact of the, let's say, platforms, the new players, the digital new players was already there. And the conclusion of it, which is maybe the intro of what we are talking right now, is we need to reshape the marketing scope. We need to reshape marketers' profile, and we need to reshape marketers' education. And this is very linked to the topic we are discussing today, making the link between professionals and academic people.
Thank you very much. Professor Ming-Zhu, I will let you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ming-Zhu. I'm an associate professor of marketing and neuroscience at UC Berkeley, between the Haas School of Business and Helen Wells Neuroscience Institute. I am the director of the Neuroeconomics Lab, and I teach primarily marketing research. And I'm really excited to be at this panel. And I think a lot of the experiences that we've had as educators are, I think, a good example of all the upheaval and but also opportunities that's available in the commercial environment at this moment. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to contribute and learn from all of you as well.
Thank you so much, Maria.
Yes, thank you for inviting me to be on this panel, Fredrik. I'm very excited to be joining you all today. My name is Maria Nari. I'm the director of Demand Generation at Vibes. It's a SaaS mobile marketing provider. I'm also the president for the San Francisco chapter of the American Marketing Association, where I lead a board of directors to provide professional development and networking opportunities for marketers in our community. For those of you who might not know what demand generation means, demand generation is the practice of bringing in new business to a company with marketing strategies. Those include digital, account-based marketing, content, and field marketing. As a demand generation professional, you're basically responsible to defining the right mix of strategies and tactics that will drive prospects to convert to customers. So my take on the new marketing of Funny Tomorrow, and what I will focus on discussing today, is related to the trends I see happening in B2B tech companies in the US. One of the biggest challenges I believe today's marketers are faced with, and especially in this crisis, is finding the most efficient and cost-effective marketing strategies to drive business to their companies, right? So we constantly see marketing budgets being cut and resources taken away. So this is where my idea comes in. It is where revenue marketing is super important. That's a way of making marketing decisions based on data-driven insights, artificial intelligence, and predictive platforms to help us automate and scale our efforts, right? This is particularly important in my field of demand generation, as revenue-driven marketing can help create better marketing and sales alignment, as these teams can align towards being lead or held accountable for mutual key performance indicators such as pipeline generation and revenue. And the last thing is I strongly believe this alignment can help remove the current friction that we see between marketing and sales teams, making both teams operate closer and more effectively.
Oh, thank you very much. And last but not least, Nawal.
Yeah, thanks, Fredrik. Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be here with you guys in this session talking about marketing, always an exciting topic. Well, thanks for the invitation as well for all the organizers. To introduce myself a bit, I'm currently working for Siemens Smart Infrastructures, which is a company from Siemens with the mission of creating environment that care, basically delivering product solutions and services to the market to make buildings and infrastructure safe, secure, comfortable, energy performing and resilient and smart. So definitely a B2B business actually, and my role in there is to tackle some topics like strategy, digital transformation, marketing, or business development. Getting into marketing, I think even before the crisis, it has never been a better period to be in marketing, I guess. New technologies, new trends, new customer behaviors. So this is bringing a complete transformation to different industries at a breakneck speed, but at the same time, this is bringing a whole bunch of new opportunities, at least for those who are able to keep up talking about the crisis, or even more, those who can be able to be ahead of the curve, right? So let us all be trying to be ahead of the curve. For us and marketing, the challenges we are facing is more how we transform our approach from a more B2B to a B2X concept. Somehow X here means for us a patient for a hospital, a guest for a hotel, or a traveler for an airport, just to mention some examples. And this is a huge shift for us because we are a DNA of a more technology, product, and portfolio-centric company, and now we need to go more to adapt ourselves to like a more this customer-centric approach, which is also a change for our sales team, of course. And with this, look, how we're gonna tackle this. And now the crisis coming in. So of course, I mean, like all our big projects, how we're gonna focus ourselves, like Jean-Michel was talking about, like long and short term. So of course, there are some reflections to have about this. I think nobody has the final answer so far, but at least we can tackle some reflections. So the take for me, like how to can transform like for the future of marketing and how marketing is going to be now sitting in the executive table actually and be driving in the driver's seat for transformation. I believe market is a strong driver. And yeah, how we're going to take, in every difficulty, there are opportunities. And here in this crisis situation, I do believe the competitive landscape is going to strongly change. And actually, if you do adapt your marketing strategy here, you're going to be maybe a different player tomorrow. So that would be my focus. I'm quite sure to bring with me from this discussion a lot of good insights and ideas back home. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, everybody. Well, actually, it's a wonderful segue maybe to think and open up the discussion to all of you with this very hot topic that is the question around the role of marketing in this current crisis within a company. Because if we look into around the world and then into different industries, we get anything from companies downsizing their marketing team, trying to push everything on sales, for example, or the opposite, companies like maintaining or even putting more emphasis on their marketing teams. What is your take on this? What is the role of the marketing within a company now in this crisis?
I might start if you wish again, or I mean, for us at least, from maybe a European perspective or a large company perspective, I mean, marketing now is really important. I mean, like we are definitely seeing like huge market changes. I mean, a lot of inactivities and a lot of a whole bunch of our customers actually are now getting rid of a lot of budgets or delaying projects or canceling like business activities. And on the same time, actually, we cannot allow ourselves actually continue talking to them the right way and bringing the same messages because the situation doesn't allow it. So marketing now is in the driver's seat actually to adapt what we can bring to the market in this situation actually, and to be able to go to the really essential message actually, because I do believe now customers are not interested in the nice to have or like the subsidiary, like next to what is important topics. You need to go to them and tell them this is what you should have or what you must have now, and this is what is clearly able for us to provide. And here we are talking about trust. I mean, you need to bring a trust in your marketing message clearly, because otherwise, if there is no trust in a crisis situation, the shift is really binary concept also. Mm-hmm. So I believe more than ever, marketing now is really an important topic in this crisis discussion.
Yeah, to build on that, I think it's also important to recognize different types. So marketers love to segment the customer base. And I think here it's also important to recognize that there are different segments of marketers, and the ones that are probably closer to the tactical side in terms of sales and sort of day-to-day survival of a company are probably going to be not as affected versus the ones who are thinking kind of more long-term, right? So because basically all of our plans have, for the next year or a few have gone up in the air in the last few months. And I think one of the really important things, and actually from this crisis, we can probably learn from is kind of how the medical community deals with these type of crises, that you need kind of a continuity of both the frontline individuals to deal with kind of the crises, but also the longer term plan in terms of how a company or how society should change. And I think actually one of the challenges for marketers is, and something that we talk about a lot in our MBA courses, but I think it's still very difficult to implement in the real world, is how to break out of the silos in our own areas and be able to speak to finance, accounting, sales about how just because if we survive for the next 6 months doesn't mean that we'll actually survive for the next few years, and be able to kind of connect the picture for the rest of the company to be able to kind of make the case that it's not only sales that's important, it's not only finance that's important, but also longer term kind of strategic planning is also important. Where does that fit in? Yeah.
I mean, to go off that, what Nafal said, and also you, Ming, I think there are three things that come to my mind, right? So companies need now more than ever to communicate empathy, and that your business can be of assistance during these uncertain times, right? So you would want to continue to build trust by communicating with prospects and customers. And marketers really have the most experience delivering message, and the messaging while keeping your brand voice and go-to-market strategy front and center, right? You don't have really other teams doing that. The second thing I think is the marketing, sales, and customer success are really critical teams for the survival of any business, right? So marketing needs to bring to life new go-to-market strategies for the survival of the business right now. It could be reactive campaigns that consist of offerings such as trial programs, something we've seen with my company, trainings or enhancements to current product features that could be valuable for companies during this time. And the other thing is that marketing needs to ensure that sales is equipped with revised messaging, right? That is empathetic, creative, and that proves value at every touch point to continue to build trust with prospects, like Nafal said. The other thing is that marketing needs to ensure that customer success is equipped with messaging that shows goodwill to retain customer, right? Retainment of customer is super critical right now. And the last thing I want to mention is that marketing is considered to be one of the most agile, scrappy, and flexible teams at any companies. But unfortunately, we don't receive much credit for those abilities. In the time of crisis, I think these are strengths that can bring new strategies, tactics, and campaigns to life in a quick manner. So obviously I might be biased because I'm a marketer, but I don't know of many other teams that are able to react that quickly to bring change to the company than marketing.
If I can add one word, is certainly that I do agree that there is definitely a short action, a short orientation that we need to take in order to very quickly drive business, cure, and so on. And the words you are using, just like trust, agile, empathy, are definitely very meaningful in order to reshape the image of marketing right now. Because all of us know that the image of marketing might be shaky. You can look at marketing as kind of a poison to influence you and make you buy maybe what you need, but also what you don't need, and so on. And in this crisis situation, it's an opportunity to change the image of marketing, because marketers know, of course, they have a good customer intimacy. They know the market. They have the knowledge of who we can communicate, drive business, and so on right now. And definitely it's an opportunity to reshape, or to maybe to get rid of part of the marketing we don't want anymore, to do kind of a marketing reset in order to focus on what is key, not only for the business, but also for the community. This is really an opportunity to reshape part of the offers, to realign the offer to something which is more useful, more meaningful. And because we are focusing right now, being stuck in our place, what is key in our daily life. And we can understand that we can do a bit of housekeeping in our consumer habit. I'm talking about B2C, but it could be also the same on B2B. We strongly believe that complexity is better than simplicity, that need or desire is more important than need, and so on. So maybe we can review some of the marketing common nonsense in order to do something more meaningful and get rid of this influential marketing, which is maybe abusing us from time to time, and to go for something more responsible. And this is an opportunity to prove within the company, but also to the clients, to the business partners, to the ecosystem, that there is an opportunity.
It's actually very interesting if we would just dig a little bit deeper into the current. It also piggybacks off a few questions that are coming in that I'm just seeing. I don't know if from the company side, between you, Maria, and Nawal, you could give a few like concrete examples of what is the reaction currently, and then we can basically get maybe an idea of maybe what has changed to what we were usually doing. One specific question was like, an example could be like the media spend mix. Like, is there something changing right now? That like, do you have some best practices that you could share, Maria, with the Silicon Valley American perspective, and you, Nawal, with a more European perspective on how you're reacting?
Yeah, I think for us, it's getting smarter with our spend, right? So we have our marketing budgets being reduced, and we need to reshift our strategy for the year. So we are looking into investing in buyer intent to figure out what our prospects are looking for and when they're ready to buy, right? Instead of spending on digital, right? I think at this time, we think or if you spend on digital, it's good to spend on account-based advertising to be very specific so that you target the people, the accounts that you know you have good opportunity or you have a good chance of doing business with. Instead of spending on search, which, you don't know if they're going to come to they're going to search for you, for your services and come to your site. So we are spending less on digital, but spending more on technologies, AI-driven technologies that can help us make better business decisions so we can guide our sales team to be efficient with their time and reach out to those prospects that are ready to buy or looking to buy something that, or software-based or what we sell. Yeah.
Yeah, from our side, actually, we have maybe a bit different perspective. Actually, we wanted to focus our forces now on what is really straightforward, actually, to the customer. So, for example, we cut out all communication on social network, digital social network marketing, because we do believe maybe it's not the right moment, actually, to be kind of, between brackets, boastful about what you are doing, what you are able to do, but rather actually cut it down and focus our forces to go and come with really quick marketing packages, for example, in our different segments. So if I I take an example of a hospital now. Actually, we are able to offer some body thermal like cameras or like space management, safe space management. Actually, so we're gonna go with very quick, short marketing packages with the pricing already there, which we do not used to do before because it was long discussions on how we're bringing the added value. But now we go straight forward. This is how it's gonna cost you, how much. This is the delay. This is actually who the contact name, and actually it's straightforward. You can very quickly have a go, no go decision right away. So this is what you are doing for the short notice term, actually quick marketing packages, rather actually low communication level because we contact customers directly. So even getting it back to standard or classical marketing rather than be too much digital. And on the same time, actually using this action actually to build on what Jean-Michel was talking about, like the longer term, because we do believe what you are providing right now is going to be part of a larger or a broader portfolio tomorrow, or broader new use cases actually we didn't consider in the past, either us or our customer. The other strategy or tactic was now to talk with customers, say, hey, look, this situation is really completely new. I mean, I'm betting nobody has like complete clue about what is happening, how to what extent this is gonna last, right? And what are the real impacts from economic perspective. So we are now going actually and proposing to our customers kind of co-creations, quick workshops, and actually to say, look, now there are so many other stuff you didn't know about or you didn't consider important. Actually, we have something maybe we can cover, but we don't know how. So let us get together and like have kind of a match between actually your new challenges, your new needs, what you are able to provide, and then getting back and quickly like recompose something like as an offering and get it back. So this is what you are doing. And this is what we do believe actually would be most efficient. Is it right now? We'll see in the coming few weeks actually if it starts enough. But I can tell you, for example, just for the example I cited of body thermal cameras, this is now is getting hits because actually we went straight away and there is no discussion and we are what we can do, and the big stuff just straightforward. So we do believe maybe it's one of the ways we can tackle here.
So interestingly if I understand correctly, on both of your sides, it's actually not that much focusing on maybe what Jean-Michel referred to as the marketing nonsense. It's like you're not spending your days on communication and pushing digital communication in both ways that you responded. It's focusing, whether it's digital or non-digital, whether it's product oriented, and it's really allocating resources differently.
Yeah, I mean to add further on this, because I mean to be able to explore this digital world and the big stuff, like I mean maybe the first thing is to be understanding what is really happening. I don't believe now everybody understood what everything, and so maybe there will be new policies, new regulations. I'm quite sure about like all aspects of safety on environments is going to drastically change. So this will have impacts, you know. And of course, this is going to also bring new consumer behaviors. So before like making it the big deal, I mean, let's help our customer first actually like go out of the situation. And then with the learnings we're going to get out of it, now we're going to get back like to the big marketing concepts. Yeah.
And maybe about that, how are we going to get out of this? I could ask, what are the opportunities maybe that we are facing as marketers coming out of this? And to your point now, they will probably be based on a different type of consumer behavior. So I don't know if Ming, you have a perspective maybe from that consumer behavior side. We also got questions in the Q&A about this. Are there changes that we can see already, or that we could predict that would exactly drive this tactical change in marketing?
Yeah, I think there's a few different angles to this. I think in terms of the boots on the ground types of phenomenon, I think one of the things about this crisis I think makes it very clear is, and I think as an opportunity for marketers, is it makes it very clear that the importance of not just marketers are very used to talking to customers, but the importance of listening. That I think a lot of the what Noel was talking about with cutting back on some of the marketings, that it feels extremely impolite at this moment to say you should buy my products because they're great, et cetera, et cetera. Right? And it's much more, it's extremely important to first, hear about their needs and their situation before it's sort of not just polite, but before it's actually reasonable to be saying to communicating, our value, right? So if I don't understand what your benefits you're looking for and what you value, it's very difficult to make the case that I can persuade you to buy something that I'm selling. So I think that's something that it's in one sense we should never let a crisis go to waste. And I think this is one of those opportunities that it really highlights. And in terms of the kind of the fundamental changes in consumer behavior, I would actually say, in terms of the changes, there are lots of things that are unpredictable. And as with everything in, teaching in a business school, like whenever there's uncertainty in the future, what we should do is both hedge and also hold on to the levers that are not going to be changing. And for me, that actually goes back to some of the really basic human needs are, so those are probably haven't been changed since, evolutionary time. And it's only going to be more important going forward in terms of, social, just, I think, having a deeper social connection, right? So, all of us are on Zoom, and I think all of us can sense that, this is the best that we have, but it's certainly not a replacement for actual human communication and actual in-person communication. So a lot of these, I think, things that we used to take for granted are actually some of the things that we would pay, a lot of money for, right? Like how much would any of us pay to have a dinner at a restaurant right now with one of our best friends, right? It's so all of those things I think that are we can't forecast, the future given that how uncertain it is, but there are a set of things that's not going to be changing, and I think we should pay more. We should sort of focus on those kind of, you can also almost think of those as core competencies rather than trying to spread ourselves too thin following every trend.
Fredrik, if you allow me to add one line on that, from the consumer behavior point of view or employee point of view, because we are both employees and consumers at the same time. Maybe the perception is not exactly the same on the US side and here. Here we definitely realize part of the limit of the globalization, because one side is wonderful, the technology opportunities, the let's say sharing knowledge about how do we get rid of this pandemia and so on is wonderful. On the other side, we are stuck because we don't have basic products that are being produced on the other side of the world, and the planes can't fly, and we don't have the machine, the products, the whatever to keep on living. So it's an opportunity, and definitely it's creating a pressure on the consumers that start thinking about where do we relocate part of the production, how do we reshape the distribution channels we have and the global path we were having for physical products, but also maybe for digital content and so on, to reshape the distribution. And the key word about short distribution cycle, direct link with the producers. When it comes to food, if you open your TV right now, we can see producers directly selling lamb for the celebration in a few days out of internet with direct distribution to the consumers. And it's one way to definitely, we have opportunities to step back and to look at this global approach we were having, pushing, educating in all the business school of the world, to say, okay, maybe we can do it differently for the sake of what's happening short term, but for the sake of what's happening long term. And maybe let's stop eating tomato this part of the year. This is very basic example, but the consumer attitude are being influenced because when we buy something right now, we ask ourselves, do we need that? Yes or no? So maybe you can react, Fredrik.
It's very interesting. I just wanted to share with you a few questions that have come in through the chat that is perfectly resonating with what you're saying, but on a tactical level, if you have marketers here in the audience listening, thinking about So how do I do that? So like tactical on the ground, I need to do some research with my consumers. What trends can you address in your surveys? Or like, should you even be doing your classic surveys? Should you maybe switch to more like confidential one-on-one interviews? We can break the box here if we want a little bit. Do we have to use the same tools differently? Do we have to invent new tools of figuring out what the consumer is living right now to answer these questions?
I mean, maybe like one comment on this. I mean, what we can really like here target as really upcoming points is customization actually, and like how we can like bring this point like into the marketing discussion. I think more and more we're gonna go and look forward actually that like the consumer behaviors are really now different from before, and even like the basic concepts of marketing, like segmentation, for example. Take this example, and I can cite one here, which is funny. I mean, like you can have now we're talking about high end, low end, right? And actually, you can have somebody taking an EasyJet flight from London to Milano to buy a Gucci bag. You know. So, I mean, even analytics like the rational to emotional somehow, and maybe for this person, I mean, the flight is not that important, whereas like buying a Gucci bag is being part of something even bigger for him. So I think even like some kind of traditional definition we need to reconsider, and this crisis even a more push to that, like, because then, I mean, you cannot even have now data to generalize. I think you have like to reconsider like segments with more a bit of rationality, but also more a bit of emotions. I mean, some people are talking about forget about the 4 Ps and go now for the emotional stuff, because this is like, it's not what you are selling, but like maybe what's the experience you are providing out of selling what you're doing. So I guess now we need to consider this customization somehow, this personalization of our approach in marketing. I think that would be a focus point, at least for us in the coming times. But still, I mean, somebody mentioned it like before, but like still you need to have to understand what is happening. You have to understand like how your customers are going to behave. But I think you would have like different panels and different landscapes to consider more than before. Yeah.
So how would you go ahead? I mean, this question to all of you, how would you do this then in terms of tactical marketing research? Would you do the same types of surveys, or would you change your approach to how you ask the consumer or you address the consumer directly?
I think I can just mention from a...
Go ahead, Maria.
Oh, okay. No, I mean, I just want to say that at the end of the day, consumers want to buy for brands that they're able to connect or emotionally connect with, right? So, and that in companies that have, or brands that have taken the time to find ways to connect with them. So from a marketing standpoint, I think this can be done by creating unique customer experiences that are personalized, like as Nafal mentioned, based on the consumer behaviors. And that's why technology nowadays is so important. Like, yeah, you have to obviously personalize, you can only rely on data, but there are data that can show you their intent behavior, or what they're looking at, what their interests are. So you can learn a little bit more about them, and then maybe leverage social channels to learn more also, but from a personal level, how to connect with them. So I think it's all about creating those unique customer experiences, and I think that's really what we're focused on in the US. It's just you always hear about customer experiences, and that's the customer is front and center in that way, because they do their own research, right? You do your own research online. By the time you're ready to buy, you have done 80% of the research already. So, yeah.
Fredrik, before this meeting, I was having a discussion with the French marketers and so on. Most of them are in kind of a rescue mode, because the turnover is collapsing, the activity is down, the suppliers are not bringing the products and so on. The planes are stuck at the airport and so on. And it's really a shaky situation we are facing. So the tools we are using, as Naufal was mentioning, we should be quick and efficient. Doesn't mean quick and dirty, but it means quick and efficient and right to the point. We don't have time to waste on a short-term basis. But we are sure that in order to restart the engine, we need something new, because the engine won't be able, the global engine won't be exactly the same. As we mentioned, for food, for travel, for many industries, we won't be able to say, okay, let's put money on a global basis, let's support the corporation, and the engine will start exactly the same way. No way. I don't think that, because we have at least ahead 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months to make sure that we move again. And to move again, we need to make sure that being a marketer is kind of, you need to be short-term and long-term, and you definitely to have many skills, but this one is key. You need to make sure you make the relaunch, but you need to prepare the next step, and the next move can't be exactly the same. We won't have exactly the same offers. We won't have, it doesn't mean that it will be purely a new world, but it's an opportunity once again to write a new page of a global approach of marketing. And this, I guess this is the title of our panel today. It's marketing for a new tomorrow. And we've got to make sure that we work today and we save our corporation, and the next move is certainly prepare a new future.
Mm-hmm. Actually, definitely, I think we need completely to understand what are in our different markets, what are the complete market shifts that's going to happen now, actually, because without understanding this, and if you continue, as just Jean-Michel mentioned, like the old-fashioned style, I mean, you will do the same things, but within a new environment and within a new landscape, which obviously will not going to work. Yeah. For us, I think I can mention an example here, and to make it a bit more concrete, right? Like we started verticalizing our approach actually, and one of the ideas was to recruit like domain know-how experts from different industries, because these guys, they talk the language of the customer, right? They know how it works sometimes even better than customers. And actually, what we ask these guys in this crisis, okay, look, I mean, and actually it worked somehow. Actually, they go, they talk to the customer, and they bring their expertise, and they understand what is really happening now within their own environments. And actually, without this understanding, it's really difficult to bring a general approach. I mean, even without the crisis now, there are so many different market segments now, and it's getting even wider and wider, the differences. So with this kind of specialists or experts, actually, then you bring even the short-term message, but with the right words and with the right understanding. And this, I mean, verticalization for us, at least from this perspective, would be a key driver in this marketing of the future tomorrow. Once you have understood what happened, I mean, again, think about these new regulations, maybe think about new policies, think about like competitors which will disappear. I mean, like if I take my example here, I mean, we used to have a lot of small players, actually, price competitiveness, right? But I mean, we are Siemens, we are big, so we are going to survive somehow in a way or another, yeah, with some difficulties, but we're going to make it. But like a 5 or 10 people company, like which used to compete with us, like definitely tomorrow there is a new landscape. So maybe I need to focus on something else rather than competing with those, or getting back actually to my value as a big brand or something, you know. So of course, I think verticalization is also a lever to facilitate this transition actually to the new marketing, to the new business world which is coming.
And linked to your point, Naufal, certainly the big will survive, but the small are needed too. And the big can help the small to be there again, because everybody has a place, let's say, in the big pictures. And this is a new way to revisit the ecosystem you are working with, to reallocate maybe part, or to redefine part of the partnership, and make sure also that part of the value is also redistributed along the value chain. The negotiation factor of the big groups, the big corporation, is so powerful that definitely let's say the ability that the small definitely make money, price, and so on are frequently challenged. And I guess it's an opportunity to step back and look at the value chain and realize that everybody in the value chain has a role to play. The suppliers and your distributors and so on.
Definitely. I think, I mean, crisis or no crisis, within the digital world, with the digital era we're living in, definitely you have this concept of ecosystem. I mean, and this is, you're completely right. I will distinguish between two kind of players. I mean, the guys that are part of your ecosystem, or they are contributing somehow actually to a bigger value, because you cannot able to do everything. And this is even more true like within the digital world. And then you have actually the kind of traditional players competing against you or with you, etc. So of course, the whole value chain needs to be revisited. I think we're talking about more socially responsible marketing, more socially responsible business. And I think also the customers or new generations of customers have even more stake on that, and they are like more even strongly interested in kind of topics. I can tell you, even with our employees, I think the new generations, I mean, these kind of people, they would come and they will talk about like well-being at work. They will talk about like how to contribute and have impact on environments, etc., etc. So if our employees have these stakes, for sure, like within our customers, we have the same people in front of us. And we need, of course, to consider this and try to all together create a bigger value, but more socially responsible. Of course, there will always be, different stakeholders. There will be like shareholders. There will be like benefits to provide and to produce. But I think we can do it, as Jean-Michel said it, in another way. And this other way could be also reflected and put on the executive table with like insights from the market.
You consider like this perspective on tomorrow. I don't know to what extent actually you could from your respective perspectives say what do you think this marketing of tomorrow looks like, even as concretely as relating to what you're doing in your respective realm, whether it be research or work. I think I cut you off a little bit, Maria, there, but maybe that would be
It's related to that question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, because Nafal was talking about digital, and I definitely think the marketing of tomorrow will be more digital, right? But it's going to be a higher focus on creating one-to-one and memorable customer experiences, right? So you see, I see, at least in my industry, see videos, right, be an important part of the tomorrow. So with our sales team, sales outreach done through videos, like VDR, this is more like on a tactical level, but this is something that you can put videos in your emails, right, where you're talking to a person. Sales call would be moved to video calls in Zoom. Right now, we're all used to having our screens on instead of not. Like I think a few months ago, we joined Zoom, but no video. It was like no video. Now everyone's on video. I think that would continue. And also experiences will become more social, right? But most importantly, personable and less at scale. I mean, maybe we're seeing in social channels right now. So I'm thinking like user-generated content that will continue to grow. If you think about TikTok videos, they're huge, right? But they go to a very specific audience. And then I'm thinking about in my field, how sales and marketing work together. So we will spend more time on personalizing content and doing consumer research through social channels. The other thing I think is relevant for us, I see a smarter spend on digital advertising. So maybe spending less on search, display, programmatic, content syndication that is really generic, right? Advertising to the masses. So instead, I think we would want to increase on targeted and segmented account-based advertising. So just go after a very specific audience, do more LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram advertising where that's also more specific. So I think it's just more about the personal one-to-one customer experiences and just going off that and getting better at our messaging, our content, and how we connect with consumers.
Yeah, I don't know. Do the experts in research, do you have like specific ideas on this point? How the professionals could shape their research to actually be able to achieve this? Because we're getting a lot of questions in the Q&A about like exactly this problem. Like somehow we've been working in this kind of more mass marketing thing. There is technology that allows us to target, but now we need to be, as you mentioned as well, in this age of listening. How do I do that? Like specifically, I'm not set up as a company that much maybe to listen and do all these specific concrete tactics. So going forward with these new opportunities that we have in this changing consumer, any insights from research that practitioners could get on how they can go ahead with shaping like these first steps of getting to these campaigns?
Yeah. So I mean, I can take a stab at that. So I think this is something that's relevant for maybe both consumers and also people entering to the workplace. So from the Bay Area, one thing that I've seen over the past few years is kind of the transformation and the sort of popularization of just data and analytics. Right? So before it used to be that if you knew anything about data analytics, you could get a job. Now it'll get you an interview, right? But it won't guarantee a job. And going forward, it'll probably even be more competitive. And I think that's part of the general trend of we've gotten really, really good at targeting and kind of these tactile and digital marketing kind of tactical level, right? So you can go to Facebook, you can Instagram, you can like do micro targeting, you can get really specific information on their behaviors, on their backgrounds. But then coming back in terms of the kind of the managerial questions and how to use that data to form longer term strategies, I think there you're kind of seeing finally kind of the trend moving back to a lot of the necessary insights don't just deal with, what do people buy, like what milk do they buy at the day-to-day level, but what are kind of the longer term needs and wants. And so in terms of our research, a lot of I think the really exciting new direction is how to kind of merge all of these new kind of, if you think about the big data revolutions, really being about kind of the tactical level, kind of the touch points in the checkout or in terms of buying, and coming back to extracting like what Maria was talking about in terms of emotions, in terms of the social connection, and there's a lot more. And then those kind of fundamentally requires a different types of data, because just seeing someone and what they buy doesn't necessarily tell you a lot about how they actually feel about a particular brand or particular product. It could just be it's a cheap product, I'm just going to keep buying it, I don't even maybe like it. But then being able to extract some of those insights, and a lot of these, and then I'll spare you the details on some of the kind of the basic research that we're doing on this, but in terms of just marrying the big data with some of the more traditional techniques. I saw some in the comments about voice of customers and one-on-one interviews. Those are still, because you're dealing with people, you need to extract kind of the underlying kind of what do people find top of mind, what do they emotionally resonate with, and for better or worse, kind of asking people and interacting with them is still one of the few ways of getting that information out.
Go ahead, Jean-Michel.
Marketers are very good to use paradox, because on one side we talk about human, on the other side we keep on talking about digital, and so on. And this is a discussion we were having a few days ago with Naufal, and I'm sure you can add some lines on that. Marketing went very far into the digital era. It's wonderful on one side, we can go to one-to-one, blah, 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 we can communicate, we can be directly linked and so on. But on the other side, part of marketing is not only social media oriented, not only AI, it's not only big data, it's much more meaningful and it's much more interesting than purely being a techie supporting the usage of social media or whatever tools in order to succeed and to do the job. So we can find a proper balance in the research between what can technology bring to market research companies and so on, but how do we find something which is a bit vintage? And I know that California, you love vintage, and Berkeley was definitely a fighting environment for many crises. And this is an opportunity, I guess, also for you guys, not only to capitalize on all the assets you do have from a technology standpoint, which is great, but on the other side, to come back to something a bit more meaningful in terms of value and so on. And those are not only words. This is what we can share with our students when we come back to education. Education can help the marketers not only to be workers of platforms, but also to be able to think about what they sell, where they buy, what they do, what kind of relationship, customer experience we achieve. And this is definitely more meaningful. And it's very enjoyable too.
I think I completely agree, Jean-Michel. I think we do not need to confuse that like digitalization could be a source of data, but it's also a channel. I mean, definitely, actually, it's not like what you are looking for. It's just either a source of data or either a channel we're going to use actually to reach our customer. This is really important to understand. Then the second, I think for us, what would be really important, Maria talked about it, is the customer experience, how we can also use new examples of digitalization actually to enhance this experience. For example, I can talk about augmented reality. We are working on a project here locally where actually with this Microsoft, like this, how you call it, this HoloLens, actually, you go and you're going to be living our experience through a hospital, through like a data center, or wherever we are working on, and so show our solution and customer and make the customers play. This is good to bring from the digital world. Then actually, you still have like the marketing, like the kind of the classical marketing concept. You can continue. Then what we've done here actually, because we wanted to have behavior or market knowledge, and this we brought this domain know-how experts, and we brought the marketing people, and we brought actually the high-tech digital profiles people knowing about technology, about new solution and all what is new. And we brought all these kind of profiles together, and this is what we call now our squad meetings. So we do not have any more marketing meetings and vertical market sales meetings. So we brought all the people together, and this is what's going to create in a very agile manner, the new offerings and the new way of talking to customers and whatever new actually in it. So this is how to just give a tactical example and a practical one how we're tackling it.
This is actually a wonderful reply to the one of the or several actually questions let transpire this question about going to the future. We've talked about the consumers, the markets, how they might change. What's the role of the marketer, and how is that going to change? You were just saying like there's no more traditional marketing meeting, like marketing squads. It sounds like you're in war mode. What do you think now, or like going out of this, the role of the marketer will be? Will there be change in the way we function, and how, to the point you were making earlier, you're not getting recruited anymore right away just because you know data? What's the role of the marketer now coming out of this crisis?
Oh, it's a great opportunity. No, go ahead, Ming.
No, go ahead.
It's a great opportunity. It's not an easy path. It's not easy because once again, the image of marketers are kind of shaky in many environments. If you're working for technology, techies and so on, then it's okay. But in other industries, you've got to find your way. And this is what we share in professional association, just like ADETEM on the French market, is definitely to support their ideas, to support their skills, to make sure that they are part of a community, to say you are kind of warriors. You've got to change a lot of things in your corporation, even though in B2B or B2C is maybe easier, but B2B is very tough because it's not only packaging the product, defining the price, and that's it. It's definitely finding ways to influence what's around you. The solution is certainly about co-working with your mates, with the member of the C-level, the exec committee or the whatever, to inspire, to show the value of having meaningful insights coming from your customers and bringing value. The wonderful asset that the marketers have is that customer knowledge is key in the business. Customer knowledge is definitely what can allow you to drive business. So exactly. It's kind of a gold mine, but everybody is having the perception that it's a sub-product. No, it's key. And we can bring value to the corporation. We can save up to a certain extent the corporation. So right now it's a great opportunity. But it's not easy, and it's really depending on who you are working with in your own environment. If your top management is purely product-driven, it's very tough because the product will be more important than the customer side and the distribution side, which is kind of a nonsense. Now the value chain is along production, distribution, and so on. And as Naufal was mentioning, the next relation is not only with your distributors, but it's also with the end users. And marketers can definitely make the link between the final users, let's say the corporation buying the product. So it's a great opportunity. So you need to be techie, you need to be hybrid, and you need to master both technology, but to remain an okay marketer with creativity, with ideas, with emotions, and so on. Not only to be a a chat player.
Yeah, I think technical skills are a definite must-have. I think the digital revolution is here to stay, and I think the demands are only going to be higher going forward. I think the important aspect to focus on is how to be a better consumer of technology and digital marketing techniques rather than a producer. Just because even just being teaching this class, every year there are just, TikTok and just never mind just the social media channels. It's impossible to keep up with, right? But in terms of what do they actually, what does a marketer actually need? There are a few things that, rather than getting into the weeds on, how does Instagram work or how does TikTok work, right? There's a common set of goals that marketers have, and to be able to marry the technical sophistication with the managerial kind of needs, I think it's still very much in short supply. And one of the things I like to say in my class is about kind of having a common sense for data rather than just like mechanically doing, applying different techniques. And I think those are the type of things that's really going to be valuable in today's environment, because if just like working, all of us probably have some experience working with someone that we think of as like, they just lack common sense. And what I think what ends up hurting them is that they're not able to be agile. They're not able to be adapt to different circumstances. Right? So being able to know what these techniques and how to apply them in different contexts, because the future is uncertain. And it kind of goes back to, I think marketers, like everyone else, can end up being very product-centric instead of customer-centric. Right? So, and if you just think about, I need to do digital marketing, right? Like that's your whole focus. I think that's a sign that you're being a little bit too product-centric as opposed to thinking about what do my customers actually need.
So you need to be, I think what comes out of this session is that you need to be able to listen. The complexity, I think that also other people in the Q&A have posed is like, how do we do that exactly? And I think, Maria, you might have an insight on some of the questions that are coming in about the empowerment that artificial intelligence is offering in this realm of maybe being able not only to have data, but to have maybe not the brain or replace the marketing brain or marketer's brain, but almost basically have a preparation so that the listening is not necessarily done by you, but is done by a machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just getting help, right? Because I think since there are reduction in marketing budgets, there might be less marketing hiring, especially during this time. You want to use AI-driven marketing to help you scale your efforts, right? So talking about customer. Exactly. How does that work? It's a platform. So there are several platforms that you can leverage that will give you intel on the buyer intent of your prospects. So if they visit specific content throughout the web, if they visit your competitors, then you can learn about that. And then that's the time for you to reach out to them because they're looking for your offerings, right? So that helps you scale your efforts, because if you do digital, you're just blasting to the masses. You don't know if they're interested in buying from you. And I mean, in this era, we have to be empathetic, but we still need to sell, right? So that's why it's so important to scale those efforts and just be more. You only have so much time. There might be layoffs, right, in marketing. You don't have the team that you used to have to do all those efforts. So that's why that's really beneficial. It just helps you're still scrappy, but it helps you scale your efforts a little bit. And think about driving the customer first experiences, right? It makes it easier for marketers to humanize connections. And if you think about it, user-generated content, such as videos, that also helps you just better connect with your consumers. Thinking about also the role of marketing, and kind of related to this, is what I was talking about earlier when I started, was revenue-driven marketing. What I see in tech is that marketing is really front and center in a company's revenue structure, right? You might have closer CMO to CEO alignment. You also have the CRO now, the Chief Revenue Officer. So it's really important to create that alignment between sales and marketing to drive better business goals, or so we can work towards the same goals and metrics. So AI helps with that, but we really need to align better with sales to be able to connect with our customers, or better connect with our customers, to say.
Thank you very much. I actually wanted that we're coming close to our time already. We have been thrown two like a little bit more harder nuts to crack as well in the Q&A. And one is interesting is the situation I think that several companies and sectors are facing right now is that regulations were made in a different world. You could consider regulations that are around GDPR, specific to industries like pharma, specific to industries like we could have air travel and so on and so forth. How do you think that impacts, or how should marketers react now that we have this change coming up when we are confined in regulatory systems that are actually not made for this?
Well, I think this is another case where it's really important to be customer centric as opposed to be, just because the regulations were designed. And I'm thinking specifically here of the regulations around during this crisis about masks and kind of medical equipment, right? And it's even though those are medical equipment, car companies are now racing to build them, and governments are changing the regulations to allow them to do that. And I think it's a lot of this is about if you can make it clear that there are benefits to society, there are benefits to customers in a way that sort of balances need. And I think it's not obvious whether there will be enough bandwidth for regulators and for organizations to accommodate them. But I think that's probably the best that we can do. And certainly, if you think about if we're trying to deliver value in a kind of honest and tangible way, if someone's not interested, it's as much their loss as our loss.
So should marketers come together, organize? Is the role of the marketing associations maybe changing? Did you even get time as marketing associations to come over a little bit out of the water and think about what's happening
right now? We are trying to find the proper balance between what's happening right now and our next move. For sure, we are very pleased. We will be very pleased to be face to face, to shake hands, to have drinks together, and to celebrate the end of this very amazing lockdown. But on the other side, once again, we need to prepare the next move. I was reading the comments, the Q&R, and depending in which business you are working on, one of my friends was writing down, digital first will remain the new normal. Of course, if you are working in a technology environment and so on, it will remain your business. But if you are working, once again, running an airline, working on a distribution chain just like Carrefour and Auchan, you ask yourself what kind of opportunity I do have out of what we are facing. So our job is complex because making kind of a shared vision of marketers is almost impossible depending on which business you are working with, depending on your industry and so on. The common feature, the backbone, is definitely that technology will be part of it, customer knowledge, online interaction, and so on. So I'm not battling against the softwares or against the digital transformation. I'm just pointing out that out of it, we should do something new. And out of it, we can reshape part of the environment we are living in, and definitely maybe try to fix part of the amazingly complex issues we are having. So our job is to prepare the next move.
How would you and Maria, as the representatives of the respective marketing associations, see the role of marketing associations now in this new economy with this background of, there is a truth of regulatory systems, there is policy changes, there is the potential to lobby. How do you see the roles of your respective marketing associations in this new world or in this crisis?
Maria, do you want to start first, Maria?
No, go ahead. You can start.
Our job is definitely out of those associations to change the image of marketing. and data protection and so on is a great move that definitely we are working with ESOMAR on a global basis at the European level, thanks to RGPD and protection of the data and so on. So we've got to clean up some of the BAs, the direction we are taking, which definitely jeopardize a bit more the image of marketing. And then our job is definitely to find the proper support for the marketers, because they are definitely challenging their daily life. They are lost in the middle of technical complexity in terms of information system, in terms of integration with the rest of the world and so on. So a lot of education is needed, a lot of lifelong learning is needed to support what they do. But with something that we mentioned at the beginning is make it meaningful, make it useful for the sake of changing the community, changing the business, and do something out of it. Maria?
Yeah, I think it's similar to what you mentioned. I think for us, that what's most important is staying connected to our community, right? But also education. So how we operate, we have monthly events. So that's something we can't do right now, right? Because we can get together. So we're thinking, okay, what do we do? How do we stay connected with our community and not lose them on the way? And obviously we have memberships, so we want to continue those. So we're now looking into, digital again, doing webinars, doing MO education where they can keep learning, they can keep growing their careers, keep developing their skill sets. That's really where we focus on, just helping them with some education and helping them grow in their careers.
Yeah, that's very exciting. It's interesting to see how associations at that level actually are coping. And unfortunately, we haven't had time to go through all the questions. I hope for the audience we have addressed most of your concerns or the hot topics you were interested in. There is a little bit of metaphysical question, I think, about why did we wait for this current crisis to change the marketing and to make it more meaningful, as we discussed. I think coming out of this, at least for me, one of the answers that we had was, we were doing what we were doing in terms of marketing. Marketing has a nature of being on the ground and maybe slightly more on the reactive side. What I understand from all we've heard here is that this is a wonderful opportunity for the field of marketing and the profession of marketing to change into being more insightful, predictive, listen to the things that you maybe cannot listen to by just looking at data, because effectively there are things that people are not sharing. I don't think many people are sharing their existential angst if they are in an environment where you'd only have to show off how great you are on Instagram or other social medias. So I think, and for me, that is something that I take away personally from this that I really enjoyed about our discussion, was this perspective on the change towards a new perspective on marketing being more future oriented rather than reactive. To close this up, I would really love if, and I think our audience would love this as well, if you respectively, from your specific point of view, you've started with your specific take on this current situation, if you could give a future looking, what will the new role of marketing and the marketer be in this future from your perspective? If you could share this individually with each one of you, with the audience, I think that would be a fantastic way to close this panel. I don't know who wants to go first.
I can go first, yep. I guess. Well, I think today's marketers are expected to do more with less, right? So you have to continue to be agile. I think the interesting thing from what's happening now with the shelter in place have been experiencing that is it's just open up companies to have marketers work from home and still be productive, right? So I think that's something that we will continue seeing more of once we get things back to normal, hopefully. And that means there's going to be more flexibility to work from home, maybe also do freelance or increase freelancing and consulting opportunities for marketers. And also something else that I'm seeing in my field, at least, and I don't know if that's just about marketing, but I'm seeing marketing roles being combined. So let's take an example is, for me, I do demand gen. But this nowadays, the Dimension professional has to have really strong skill sets in marketing operations and customer marketing, and these are really roles that used to be hired for separately. So I think what's going to happen, I think there is some combination happening of roles in marketing, just because we're so scrappy, and again, you have to be agile. So you might have to do other things that you might not be under your specialty, but that it's going to be the future. So.
Thank you very much. Who wants to go next?
I might go. I think something here we can. Jean-Michel said something which was really meaningful. I mean, at the end, like, business is about bringing something to and answering the customer need, right? Like, I mean, and who is better than marketers to bring in this kind of the right compass actually to the executive management actually for the right decision and for right strategy definition. So basically, be it like digital, be it a change or a crisis, I think we need to bring marketing to the topic there and allow like CXO levels actually to bring actually to the market the right decisions and the right outcomes, like to answer the best to customers and to market changes. I think in the last periods, in the last years, we could have seen, like as Maria just mentioned, like more with less in the marketing. They are a cost center. I do believe marketing is not a cost center, is actually a value add production center somehow. And this should be like really reevaluated in the executive thinking and the executive management appreciation actually. So, and this crisis is going to be a lever for that, because in a way, I mean, like, how to answer now the complete massive changes that are happening if you do not have this knowledge, or you do not have the right teams and the right profiles and the right people actually to address it and to capitalize on it for a bit mid-term and long-term. So this would be my take for that. So let's bring it to the executive table somehow.
Thank you very much.
One thing that I see in, at least in the Bay Area, is it's actually related to what Maria was saying, in terms of the sort of the merging, but at a different level, in terms of the merging of the responsibilities for people who are working with data and people making decisions. So for the past, I think, decade or so, you see kind of a lot of the, especially the larger companies, analytics becomes their own kind of vertical, right? And now I think as these tools become better democratized and used, you're going to see them sort of merging back into the respective areas and be much more kind of connected with the actual strategy, and also the reverse. The marketing will become, will be more directly connected to them. So I think that's going to change a lot of marketing, both careers and also the functions of marketing within companies.
Thank you, Jean-Michel.
My takeaway is definitely that we are living a wonderful life, but online life is great, but real life might be better and a bit more enjoyable. I would like to go to a restaurant after this session. I would love to hang around and to visit Luxembourg, which is just next door. And so we are stuck. So we've got to fix part of what's happening around. We find ways, we share skills. We understand that, let's say, the issues are complex, and I hope that marketing can bring value around to help to find a solution. And nobody knows the solution, so it's a teamwork and co-work. It's maybe linked to the partnership we are having, isn't it, Fredrik? About NAM, Berkeley, what we are trying to achieve.
I think this is actually a wonderful coming together, and for us, organizing this was absolutely exciting, and I want maybe on our side to close with this big thank you to all the panelists for taking time to be here and share with us really this unique, I've not seen other events do this, where you have this unique mixture of perspectives, geographically different perspective, and then also perspectives between research and industry, between the different sizes and types of companies. For me, it was absolutely fascinating to have this discussion with you. I hope the audience really enjoyed these insights. I'm pretty sure that many of the listeners have been inspired. Our objective of this series, and this would be a first event of more of this type of coming together, is definitely to go back to something that Jean-Michel alluded to at the very beginning, which I think is a common ground between our institutions. It is the thought leadership. It is the capacity to train and work with people that work at this judgment, wisdom level, to the people that have to deal with the problems that there's no solution for. And talking to experts of your caliber here is absolutely fascinating for the audience and for us as well, because it allows us to understand best practices, to understand insights, and for each one of us to build a better level of judgment and maybe to feel more armed and prepared to face this unknown that we're in. This is, from my side, the big thank you to all of you, and I would let Jean-Michel to close off as our partner from CNAM to close off this session.
Thank you. I do really appreciate the way we prepare, the way we are working together. I hope that we will make sure that our students from the MBA will be able to go for a study track at Berkeley on Agile management, project management, and so on. And we are working on a study trip in the next few months, hopefully, if we can fly, connect, and so on. I'm very proud of it, and I hope that we will have students coming from the States coming to Paris and the other way around. I just want to announce that the next session of this series will be on the 24th of April, and the topic will be chaos management. And we're going to have on our side from Paris, Professor Alain Boer, which is a famous criminologist, and he has really a vision about how you manage such a complex situation. I'm sure that the counterpart on US will be great. And the last message is certainly, otherwise Nadej will kill us, that we need to fill up the survey after this session. Otherwise, there won't be another session again. So fill up the evaluation and see you soon. Very pleased to have you and to be part of this session today. Thank you, Fredrik, too. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Naufal. Thank you, Ming. And thank you to the support team, Eli, Ira, and Nadej. Okay. Bye from Paris.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.